U.S. media is perhaps rightfully focused on the Mueller report today and for the next few days. There is a lot else going on around the world, and we turn to it now in a segment we call Meanwhile in. Meanwhile in the oceans, plastic is apparently an even bigger issue than we thought it was, and here on the Damage Report, we thought it was pretty bad. We talk about it quite a bit. So apparently, while traditionally investigations of the amount of plastic in the ocean focuses on so-called microplastics, very tiny particles of plastic, the amount of big pieces of plastic has been rapidly increasing as well. The increase in large plastic pollution has been happening since 1957, with a significant increase since the 1990s. There's a new study that talks about the overall impact of plastic production and dissemination around the world and how bad it's going to be. That study is available in the journal Nature Climate Change, found that if the trend that's been identified continues, the making of plastics will comprise 15% of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. By comparison, all of the world's forms of transportation now account for 15% of emissions. So we talk about plastic once it's been made and once you use it and once you throw it away, but the actual construction of it is also really bad for the environment. And in particular, I love these campaigns to get people to take more personal responsibility for their waste and their emissions and all of that. One example of that is plastic straw use, and you see more and more people making an effort to not use straws. That's great, but straws make up a very small percentage of the plastic that is produced and the plastic that ends up in the oceans, whereas fishing nets and things like that is a significant percentage. I get that that's harder for us individually to do anything about, but it should perhaps be a bigger part of the conversation to push the government to actually do something about it, because that's significant as well. And sort of getting into that, I want to talk about a quote from the chief policy officer for Oceana, who said, "Individual action can help, but we don't want the individual to feel like they are the problem. What we really want is for companies to give us choices of more plastic-free products or products that can be reused or refillable. We need to change the structure of our commerce to protect our marine health and our own." And that's what's always so interesting about this, is that we talk about individual use of plastic. We don't talk nearly enough about the use of it by manufacturers in producing these products in the first place. And that is something where the government could very much be more involved. Meanwhile, in the UK, a long-awaited porn ban is set to be instated. It's been coming, but you won't be. I feel uncomfortable even making that joke, so I apologize. So let's turn now to the porn ban. There's new checks to make sure that the only people who will be able to access porn will be above a certain age, to make sure the kids don't see it. Those checks could include having internet users enter personal details into a privately owned database or buying a pass from news agents. There will be a number of different ways for people to prove their age, the government said, all of which will be, quote, rigorous, and are not simply typing in a date of birth or ticking a box. The Internet Service Providers Association said that internet companies may be asked to entirely ban websites that don't comply with the rules, but that it expected most pornography providers to do so. And on the other side, I guess, you have digital rights campaigners strongly attacking the new rules, arguing they represent a severe limit on the way the internet works and could compromise the privacy of people who cooperate with them. And also, hypothetically, I mean, the websites might be more inconvenient for people outside of the UK if they have to continually be saying how old they are to comply with UK rules. This is dumb. I'm not saying that there isn't some case where some of the more extreme forms of porn perhaps are not suitable for 10-year-olds to be seeing. I get that. It's pointless, though. I mean, back in the day before the internet, to see porn, you had to physically buy an object. That's way harder for an 8-year-old to do. You can't even like stack 3 8-year-olds in a trench coat and get them to do it. They'll see through that. You had to physically hand over money and physically be given an object, and still kids found porn. They were able to get it then. They're gonna be sitting in front of this computer with a great incentive, if you know what I mean, to get past these things. You don't think they'll be able to do that? I'm continually asked how old I am. I frequently lie, even though I'm old enough to qualify for anything. Kids, too, will find a way. In the end, it's likely to just inconvenience people who are legally able to see the porn without doing much to stop kids from accessing it. We'll check in a while and see if maybe I'm wrong. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, a world leader is taking drastic action to call attention to the oceans, which is, of course, the focus of Meanwhile in today. Actually going deep below the ocean in a submersible to call attention to how much damage is being done to it. That is the president of the Seychelles, Danny Faure, who implored the world to do more to protect the, quote, beating blue heart of our planet in a Sunday speech broadcast live from the depths of the Indian Ocean. According to the AP, it was the first time a political speech has been broadcast live from a submersible underwater, although I'm sure Beto O'Rourke will do it later today, now that the president has been set. The Seychelles president said the ocean is huge, covering almost 70% of our planet, but we have managed to seriously impact this vast environment through climate change, ocean acidification, overfishing, plastic, and other pollution. And in terms of the overall protections that have been provided after decades of activism, only about 5% of the world's oceans are currently protected. UN member countries have agreed to increase that percentage to 10% by 2020, a goal that won't likely be met. But even if that target is reached, it won't be enough to ensure the health of ocean ecosystems and maintain their biodiversity, especially because you can say that this particular section of the ocean is protected, but climate change is heating up all of the ocean, and you can't control that in a local way. It takes a world's effort. It takes much more than a village, it turns out, in this case. But still, for the president of the Seychelles, anything you do to draw attention to this, I'm in favor of. We will see where he'll broadcast from next time. And I will also point out, after tons of efforts at broadcasting live from different locations and having lots of trouble at it, the fact that he can do so deep below the ocean is an indictment of the technology here at TYT. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.